Usapan naman natin mga kababayan ngayon yung mga pangyayari sa ibang dako ng ating mundo kasi palala ng palala po yung conflict doon sa Middle East. Lalo't umatake na naman po yung Iran. Pinaulanan po ng missiles yung Israel. Ngayon, may nagpalabas po yung ating Department of Foreign Affairs ng statement. Medyo hindi natin nagustuhan yung statement ng DFA po. Kasi ang sinisisi ng Department of Foreign Affairs, yung Israel po, ito yung pinalabas na balita mga kababayan, na statement ng ating Department of Foreign Affairs ngayong araw na to. DFA blames Israel for tensions in Levant. Hindi kayo siguro informed. O baka informed kayo, kaya lang maling information, biktima kayo ng fake news. Kasi bakit ninyo sisisihin dyan sa Department of Foreign Affairs yung Israel sa tensyon na nangyayari sa Middle East na ang punot dulo ng kaguluhan ito, yung mga kalaban ng Israel, lalo na po yung recent attacks na ginawa po ng Hamas noong October 7 last year na ikinamatay po ng almost 1,200 na mga innocent Israeli civilians. Kaya nga po, umatake yung Israel to destroy the infrastructure ng Hamas at ngayon po yung Hezbollah na ang sponsor niyan mga kababayan, yung Iran. But before natin mga kababayan pag-usapan ang isyong ito kasi baka ito po yung maging mitsa para magkagulo sa buong mundo. Dati na may conflict tayo with may gira po yung Ukraine pagkatapos yung Russia. Then comes now the possible regional war dito po sa Middle East na pag nangyari siya, apektado po pati tayo rito. Not only marami tayong mga kababayan na mga OFWs in the Middle East, kundi pati yung ating economy kasi yung supply po ng mga petroleum products, karamihan po kinukuha natin sa Middle East. Kaya concerned po tayo mga kababayan. But before that, before nating pag-usapan, click subscribe muna dito sa ating YouTube channel and hit the notification bell para lagi po kayong updated sa mga kaganapan dito sa ating bansa. Like and share na rin po ninyo ng ating video. At wag na rin po ninyo na skip yung ating mga commercial ads para tuloy-tuloy lang ang pag-unlad ng bagong Pilipinas. Itong ating programa mga kababayan, atid sa inyo nitong ating mga sponsors. Firmax Framing and Lifting Cream. Pinapay po sa mga pulses in affected area. Mainam po ito sa mga pains at paninigas ng mga kaso-kasuan. Ito sa mukha naman yung application, anti-aging, Automax po siya. Ito ay Glow Zero mga kababayan. Whitening po siya. Made in South Korea. Ito naman po, Nengxia Red Mix Fruit Drink. Gawa po siya sa goji berry. May anti-cancer properties po siya. At sa mga nagana po ng malinis and spacious fitness gym, pumunta lang po kayo sa aming Colossal Fitness Gym. May Grab car rental din po kami. At bills payment po sa aming office. At saka sa mga mahilig po sa mga imported bags, manood po kayo sa live selling ni Madam Eileen Rosales sa kanyang Eileen Closet po. Pati mga shoes, ito yung kanya po. Ito yung kanyang page. Kita ninyo, napakagandang mga online selling po siya. Si Madam Eileen Rosales. Cellphone number niya po 773-798-7816. So balik tayo po dito sa ating pinag-uusapan, itong issue yung conflict sa Israel po. Kasi kailangang sawayin natin yung mga taga-DFA. Check your facts. Bakit ninyo kinukundina? Nasa tama po na posisyon ang Israel. Dapat pumosisyon tayo sa tama po. Ang lupa na pinag-aawayan dyan kasi sa Middle East, dyan po sa Israel po, ang may karapatan dyan, kahit i-check ninyo sa Bible. Sabi ko sa inyo, ang Bible is historical, scientific and historical. Ang may-ari ng lupa, promised land, yan na promised land. Yung Israel mismo, inoccupy lang yan mga kababayan nitong mga Arabs. Binabawi lang nila, binawi po nila. Kaya yung mga statements diyan sa Israel na occupied territory, fake news po yan. Ang lupang yan na ipinangako, mga kababayan, Diyos mismo na may lalang ng lupa, langit ang lupa ang nagbigay sa Israel. Yan ang dapat maintindihan ng mga taga Department of Foreign Affairs. Ngayon, ayaw silang tantanan ng mga kalaban. Ginugulo sila. Until today, mga kababayan, thousands of years, naging persecuted po yung Israel. Mali po mga taga DFA ang information na nakuha ninyo. Na-influensya siguro kayo nitong mga enemies ng Israel kasi massive yung kanilang mga propaganda na may right sila dyan. Wala silang right. Pag-ari yan ng Israel. So ang dapat na gawin natin, pumosisyon tayo sa tama. Noong October 7, nilusob po ng mga Hamas yung Israel. Kaya gusto nilang i-destroy para matapos na, mga kababayan, yung insecurity na lagi nilang problema. Ito po yung sinisisi ng DFA natin. Pag ganyan po, may sumpa, may curse para doon sa mga hindi sumaside po sa Israel. From the very beginning, mga kababayan, yan ang sinabi ng Diyos in Genesis chapter 12 verse 3. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you, I will curse. Kaya mag-ingat po tayo sa ating posisyon. Gusto ninyo ng blessings, we pray for peace for the people of Israel. And we have to support all the time yung Israel po kasi apple of the eye ng ating Panginoong Diyos, Ama, ang Israel at ang kalupaan sa Israel, mga kababayan. Mismo, sabi nga natin kanina, mismo yung ating Panginoon ang nagbigay sa kanila. Walang karapatan dyan po ang mga kalaban ng Israel. Napakalawak po ng kalupaan ng mga Arabo. Pagkatapos gusto pa nilang kunin ang Israel. And their intention is to wipe out from the map ang Israel. Imagine that. Yan ang sumpa, mga kababayan, yung leader ng Iran. Kaya mali po itong posisyon ninyo, mga taga-DFA. Sabi rito sa balita, the Philippine government emphasized on Friday the need to adhere to international laws following Israeli military's possible widening of ground operations against the Hezbollah militant group. The DFA reiterated on Friday its controversial position to blame Israel for increasing tensions in the Middle East without mentioning the terrorist attacks of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthi militants and its Bakit, Iran. You are playing with fire, mga taga-DFA, and you are inviting trouble and curse galing mismo sa ating Panginoon. Mali ang posisyon ninyo. Sinong nag-advise sa inyo niyan? Siguro mga na-influensya kayo ng mga ungodly people at na-influensya kayo ng mga maling information, mga propaganda ng kalaban ng Israel. Pag-aralan ninyong mabuti po. Kaya ito ginagawa ng Israel kasi inatake sila. Pagkatapos they have the right to defend themselves. Self-defense ang ginagawa ng Israel. Ang dami pong pinatay sa kanila. Unprovoked. Pero pinasok sila, mga kababayan. Mamaya i-play ko yung parinig ko sa inyo, yung naging speech po sa UN ni Netanyahu. Pakinggan ninyo yung sinasabi ni Netanyahu, yun ang totoo. Sabi dito, the Philippines expresses grave concern over the increasing tensions in the Middle East, a region marked by Israeli ground operations in Lebanon. We emphasize the need to adhere to international humanitarian law, especially the principles of proportionality and distinction in response to security threats, and to ensure the protection of civilians at all times. Sabi po ng message ng DFA. The DFA made no mention of the 18 Filipinos who were detained by Iran-backed Houthi terrorists and brought to the port city of Hodayna. Kita ninyo, pati tayo naging biktima ng mga kalaban ng Israel. Pagkatapos, yung Israel na lumalaban sa mga terrorist po, kinundem pa ninyo. Di ba mali? Hindi na lang sana kayo nagsalita, nagpalabas ng statement. you have to siguro re-evaluate yung ating posisyon dito. Ang tamang posisyon po, posisyon ng sinasabi sa Bible. Ang sino mang mag-bless sa Israel will be blessed. At sino mang mag-curse sa Israel will be cursed. Yan ang malinaw dyan. O ngayon, pakinggan natin mga kababayan yung strong message mga kababayan sa United Nations ni Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. By the way, before si Netanyahu po, ito munang statement ni Trump. Tama itong si Trump. Sabi ni Trump, Israel should hit nuclear facilities first ng Iran. Kasi po, pag naka-develop po ng nuclear weapon, finally, ang Iran, malamang ito na po yung Third World War and the road to Armageddon. Yan ang katotohanan na yan mga kababayan. Pakinggan natin yung portion ng statement ni Trump. Para iba naman yung ating kwento mga kababayan.
That was not good. Anyway, I believe it's absolutely something that we want to have for safety. We're a target for a lot of different places. I listened to Biden yesterday. You know, since I went under the wing, I used to go under the wing of the aircraft. Nobody ever did that before. I did. All of a sudden, Biden started, but he only takes like a half a question. Usually can't answer it. But they asked him, "What do you think about Iran? Would you hit Iran?" And he goes, "As long as they don't hit the nuclear stuff." That's the thing you want to hit, right? I said, I think he's got that one wrong. Isn't that what you're supposed to hit? I mean, it's the biggest risk we have. Nuclear weapons, the power of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt the entire military, jets, everything. I built it, including nuclear, and I hated to build the nuclear, but I got to know firsthand the power of that stuff, and I'll tell you what, we have to be totally prepared. We have to be absolutely prepared. But when they asked him that question, the answer should have been, hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later. And that's what they should. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But we'll find out whatever their plans are. But great question. Thank you very much.
So dapat po si Trump ang manalo po. Yun din dapat tayo rito, mga kababayan sa Pilipinas. Yung nuclear deterrence dapat iposisyon natin para hindi po tayo mga kababayan binubuli rin ng bully. Alam na ninyo kung sino yung bully rito sa neighborhood natin, di ba? O ngayon, pakinggan natin mga kababayan si Netanyahu. O galing siya sa United Nations mga kababayan. Ito yung mensahe niya 7 days ago. Kasi sinisiraan po. Yung Israel, sinisiraan ng sinisiraan. Pakinggan po natin mga kababayan.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't intend to come here this year. My country is at war, fighting for its life. But after I heard the lies and slanders leveled at my country by many of the speakers at this podium, I decided to come here and set the record straight.
Yan, palakpakan
I
sila.
decided to come here to speak for my people, my country, to speak for the truth. And here's the truth. Israel seeks peace.
Correct.
Israel yearns for peace. Israel has made peace and will make peace again.
Sila yung ginugulo eh. Napakalit nga ng nabansa. The size of Bicol region lang po siya.
Yet we face savage enemies who seek our annihilation. And we must defend ourselves against these savage murderers. Our enemies seek not only to destroy us, they seek to destroy our common civilization and return all of us to a dark age and terror. When I spoke here last year, I said we face the same timeless choice that Moses put before the people of Israel thousands of years ago. As we were about to enter the Promised Land, Moses told us, that our actions will determine whether we bequeath to future generations a blessing or a curse. And that is the choice we face today. The curse of Iran's unremitting aggression or the blessing of a historic reconciliation between Arab and Jew. In the days that followed that speech, the blessing I spoke of came into sharper focus. A normalization deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel seemed closer than ever. But then came the curse of October 7th. Thousands of Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists from Gaza
Ayan po
burst
sinasabi ko.
into Israel in pickup trucks, on motorcycles, and they committed unimaginable atrocities. They savagely murdered 1,200 people. They raped and mutilated women.
Matindi po.
They beheaded men. They burned babies alive.
Grabe
They
yung
burned
ginawa.
entire families alive. Babies, children,
Pagkatapos, ang
parents,
i-condemn natin
grandparents.
yung
It seems
Israel.
reminiscent of the Nazi Holocaust.
Mali po ang
Hamas
DFA.
kidnapped 251 people from dozens of different countries, dragging them into the dungeon.
Maling-mali po kayo sa Department of Foreign
154 of
Affairs.
these hostages,
Biktima kayo ng fake
including
news.
107 who returned alive. I want to assure you, we will not rest until the remaining hostages are brought home too. And some of their family members are here with us today. I ask you to stand up.
Dapat we side with Israel. Sila yung nasa tama.
With us is Eli Stevie, whose son Idan was abducted from the Nova Music Festival. That was his crime. A music festival.
Grabe.
And these murderous monsters took him.
Matindi yun po. Concert
Kobe
yun.
Smirno, whose son Jonathan was murdered, and his corpse was taken into the dungeons, into the terror tunnels of Gaza. A corpse held hostage.
Kahindik-hindik po.
Salim Al-Atrash, whose brother Muhammad, a brave Arab-Israeli soldier, was murdered. His body too was taken to Gaza.
Hindi yung
And so
gawain
was the
ng tao.
body of
Halimaw na
Ifat
po
Hyman's
ang
daughter
gumawa.
in Bar, murdered at that same
Demonic
music
po.
festival. With us is Sharon Sharabi, whose brother Yossi was murdered, and who prays for his older brother Eli, who is still held hostage in Gaza. And with us too is Izar Liftage from Kibbutz Nir Oz, a kibbutz that was wiped out by the terrorists. Thankfully, we achieved the release of his mother Yocheved, but his father Oded is still languishing in an underground terrorist hell of Hamas. I again promise you, we will return your loved ones home. We will not spare that effort. Holy mission is
May right
accomplished.
po yung Israel na i-defend yung kanilang sarili kasi ayaw silang tantanan eh.
Ladies and gentlemen, the curse of October 7th began when Hamas invaded Israel from Gaza. But it didn't end there. Israel was soon forced to defend itself on 6 more war fronts organized by Iran. On October 8th, Hezbollah attacked us from Lebanon. Since then, they fired over 8,000 rockets
Matindi.
at our towns and cities, at our civilians.
Ngayon nga, pinapaulanan
later,
sila. Buti na lang may
Iran-backed
advanced
Houthis in Yemen
weapon system
launched
sila,
drones
yung
and missiles at
Iron
Israel.
Dome.
The 150 such attacks, including one yesterday aimed at Tel Aviv. Iran's Shiite militias in Syria and Iraq have targeted Israel dozens of times over the past year as well. Fueled by Iran, Palestinian terrorists in Judea and Samaria perpetrated scores of attacks there and throughout Israel. And last April, for the first time ever, Iran directly attacked Israel from its own territory, firing 300 drones, cruise missiles, and
Matindi po.
ballistic missiles at us. I have a message for the tyrants of Tehran. If you strike us,
Wala yung Iran.
we
Oh.
will strike you. There is no place,
If you strike us ngayon, we will strike you.
there is no place in Iran that the long arm of Israel cannot reach.
Yan ang banta
And
niya.
that's
No?
true of the entire Middle
ni
East.
Netanyahu.
Far from being lambs led to the slaughter, Israel's soldiers have fought back with incredible courage and with heroic sacrifice. And I have another message for this assembly and for the world outside this hall. We are winning.
Ganon ang determination po ng Israel. Kasi ang Israel po,
Ladies
God's
and gentlemen,
people siya. Kahit
as Israel
anong
defends
isipin ninyo.
itself against
God's
Iran
people,
in the sevenfold
God's
war,
chosen people po
The
ang
line
Israel.
separating the blessed curse could not be more clear. This is the map I presented here last year. It's a map of a blessing. It shows Israel and its Arab partners forming a land bridge connecting Asia and Europe between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. Across this bridge, we will lay rail lines, energy pipelines, fiber optic cables, and this will serve the betterment of 2 billion people. Now look at this second map. It's a map. Look at the second map. It's a map of a curse. It's a map of an arc of terror that Iran has created and imposed from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean. Iran's malignant arc has shut down international waterways. It cuts off trade. It destroys millions, destroys nations from within, and inflicts misery on millions. On the one hand,
Mamili po tayo. Blessing or
a
curse?
future of hope. On the other hand, a dark future of despair. And if you think this dark map is only a curse for Israel, if you think that, then you should think again.
Pakinggan ninyo.
Because Iran's aggression, if it's not checked, will endanger every single country in the Middle East and many, many countries in the rest of the world.
Kita
Because
ninyo.
Iran seeks to impose its radicalism well beyond the Middle East.
Worldwide
That's
po
why
ang threat ng
It
Iran.
funds terror networks on 5 continents. That's why it builds ballistic missiles for nuclear warheads.
Pati rito
to
sa atin,
threaten
may mga
the entire
terrorist.
world. For too long, the world has
Yung
appeased
Mauti,
Iran. It turns a blind eye
Marawi
to its
Seeds,
internal
mga
repression.
kababayan.
It turns a blind
Inspired
eye
yun
to
ng
its external
Islamist,
aggression.
terorist
Well, that
po,
appeasement must end. And that appeasement must end now.
based sa Middle East. Imagine, damay, pati po tayo rito.
Nations of the world should support the brave people of Iran who want to rid themselves of this evil regime. Responsible governments should not only support Israel in rolling back Iran's
Kaya mali
aggression,
po ang
they
posisyon
should
ng
join
DFA.
Israel. They should join Israel in stopping
Yes.
Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Correct.
In this body, in the Security Council, we're going to have a deliberation in a few months. And I call on the Security Council to snap back UN Security Council sanctions against Iran, because we must all do everything in our power to ensure that Iran never gets nuclear weapons.
Pag nangyari po na nagka-nuclear
For decades,
weapon ng Iran,
I've been
gulo
warning the
sa buong
world
mundo,
against Iran's
baka
nuclear
Armageddon na po.
Delayed this program by perhaps a decade, but we haven't stopped it. We've delayed it, but we haven't stopped it. Iran now seeks to weaponize its nuclear program for the sake of the peace and security of all your countries. For the sake of the peace and security of the entire world, we must not let that happen. And I assure you, Israel will do everything in its power to make sure it doesn't happen.
So sila yung magli-lead. Kahit halimbawa ayaw ng Amerika, they
So,
will lead.
ladies and gentlemen, the question before us is simple. Which of these 2 maps that I showed you will shape our future? Will it be the blessings of peace and prosperity for Israel, our Arab partners, and the rest of the world? Or will it be the curse in which Iran and its proxies spread carnage and chaos everywhere? Israel has already made its choice. we've decided to advance the blessing. We're building a partnership for peace with our Arab neighbors while fighting the forces of terror that threaten that peace. For nearly a year, the brave men and women of the IDF have been systematically crushing Hamas's terror army that once ruled Gaza. On October 7th, the day of that invasion into Israel, that terror army numbered nearly 40,000 terrorists. It was armed with more than 15,000 rockets. It had 350 miles of terror tunnels, an underground network bigger than the New York subway system, which they used to wreak havoc above and below ground. A year later, the IDF has killed or captured more than half of these terrorists, destroyed over 90% of their rocket arsenal, and eliminated the key segments of their terror tunnel network. In major military operations, we destroyed nearly all of Hamas's terror battalions, 23 out of 24 battalions. Now, to complete our victory, we are focused on mopping up Hamas's remaining fighting capabilities. We are taking out senior terrorist commanders and destroying remaining terrorist infrastructure. But all the while, and I'll say this one more time, we remain focused on our sacred mission, bringing our hostages home. And we will not stop until that mission is complete.
Yan ang leader po, magaling.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, even with Hamas's greatly diminished military capability, the terrorists still exercise some governing power in Gaza by stealing the food that we enable aid agencies to bring into Gaza. Hamas steals the food, and then they hike the prices. They feed their bellies, and then they fill their coffers with money that they extort from their own people. They sell the stolen food at exorbitant
Ganon
prices.
katindi po.
And that's how they stay in power. Well, this too has to end, and we're working to bring it to an end. And the reason is simple. Because if Hamas stays in power, it will regroup, rearm, and attack Israel again and again and again, as it is vowed to
Kaya
do.
gusto nilang
So
tapusin na to,
Hamas has
ubusin
got
sila.
to go. Just imagine, for those who say, well, Hamas has to stay, it has to be part of a post-war Gaza, imagine in a post-war situation in World War II, imagine allowing the defeated Nazis in 1945 to rebuild Germany. It's inconceivable, it's ridiculous. It didn't happen then, it's not going to happen now. This is why Israel will reject any rule for Hamas in a post-war Gaza. We don't seek to resettle Gaza. What we seek is a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza. Only then can we ensure that this round of fighting will be the last round of fighting. We are ready to work with regional and other partners to support
Total
a local
eradication
civilian
po
administration
ang
in
objective
Gaza
ni
committed to
Netanyahu.
peaceful coexistence. As for the hostages, I have a message for the Hamas captors. Let them go. Let them go. All of them. Those alive today must be returned alive. And the remains of
Yung mga
those whom you
hostages po.
brutally killed must be returned to their families. Those families here with us today and others in Israel deserve to have a resting place for their loved ones, a place where they can grieve and remember them. This war, ladies and gentlemen, this war can come to an end now. All that has to happen is for Hamas to surrender, lay down its arms, and release all the hostages. But if they don't, we will fight until we achieve victory, total victory. There is no substitute for it.
Di nila
Israel must
tatantanan.
also defeat Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is the quintessential terror organization in the world today. It has tentacles that span in all continents. It has murdered more Americans and more Frenchmen than any group except bin Laden. It's murdered the citizens of many countries represented in this room. And it has attacked Israel viciously over the last 20 years. In the last year, completely unprovoked. A day
Kahit
after
hindi nila
Hamas
inaano,
massacre
unprovoked.
on October 7th,
Talagang
Hezbollah began attacks
gusto din
against
silang
Israel,
i-wipe
which
out
forced
ang
more
mga
than 60,000
mga
Israelis
Hudyo.
on our northern border to leave their homes.
satanic
becoming
po ang
refugees
kalaban
in their
po
own
ng
land.
Israel.
Hezbollah turned vibrant towns in the north of Israel into ghost towns. So I want you to think about this in equivalent American terms. Just imagine if terrorists turned El Paso and San Diego into ghost towns. Then ask yourself, how long would the American government tolerate that? A day? A week? A month? I doubt they tolerate it even for a single day. Yet Israel has been tolerating this intolerable situation for nearly a year. Well, I've come here today to say enough is enough. We won't rest until our citizens can return safely to their homes. We will not accept a terror army perched on our northern border, able to perpetrate another October 7th style massacre. For 18 years, Hezbollah brazenly refused to implement UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which requires it to move its forces away from our borders. Instead, Hezbollah moved right up to our border. They terror tunnels to
Hindi.
infiltrate our communities, indiscriminately fired thousands of rockets into our towns and villages. They fire these rockets and missiles not from military sites, not from that. They do that too. But they fire those rockets and missiles after they place them in schools,
Tindi.
in hospitals, in apartment buildings, and in the private homes of the citizens of Lebanon. They endanger their own people. They put a missile in every kitchen, a rocket in every garage. I said to the people of Lebanon this week, get out of the death trap that Hezbollah has put you in. Don't let Nasrallah drag Lebanon into the abyss. We're not at war with you. We're at war with Hezbollah, which has hijacked your country and threatens to destroy ours. As long as Hezbollah chooses the path of war, Israel has no choice, and Israel has every right to remove this threat and return our citizens to their homes safely. And that's exactly what we're doing. Just this week, the IDF destroyed large percentages of Hezbollah's rockets, which it built with Iran's funding for 3 decades. We took out senior military commanders who not only shed Israeli blood, but American and French blood as well. And then we took out their replacements, and then the replacements of their replacements. And we'll continue degrading until all our objectives are met. Ladies and gentlemen, we're committed to removing the curse of terrorism that threatens all civilized societies. But to truly realize the blessing of a new Middle East, we must continue the path we paved with the Abraham Accords 4 years ago. Above all, this means achieving a historic peace agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And having seen the blessings that we've already brought with the Abraham Accords, the millions of Israelis who've already flown back and forth across the Arabian Peninsula, over the skies of Saudi Arabia, to the Gulf countries, the trade, the tourism, the joint ventures, the peace, I say to you, what blessings such a peace with Saudi Arabia would bring. It would be a boon to the security and economy of our two countries. It would boost trade and tourism across the region. It would help transform the Middle East into a global juggernaut. Our two countries could cooperate on energy, water, agriculture, artificial intelligence, and many, many other fields. Such a peace, I'm sure, would be a true pivot of history. It would usher in a historic reconciliation between the Arab world and Israel, between Islam and Judaism, between
Gusto nila
Mecca and
peace talaga.
Jerusalem. While Israel is committed to achieving such a peace, Iran and its terror proxies are committed to scuttling it. That's why one of the best ways to foil Iran's nefarious designs is to achieve the peace. Such a peace would be the foundation for an even broader Abrahamic alliance. And that alliance would include the United States, Israel's current Arab peace partners, Saudi Arabia, and others who choose the blessing of peace. It would advance security and prosperity across the Middle East and bring enormous benefits to the rest of the world. With American support and leadership, I believe this vision can materialize, and much sooner than people think. And as the Prime Minister of Israel, I will do everything in my power to make it happen. This is an opportunity that we and the world should not let go by.
Wala yung Saudi representative.
Ladies and gentlemen, Israel has made its choice. We seek to move forward to a bright age of prosperity and peace. Iran and its proxies have also made their choice. They want to move back to a dark age of terror and war. And now I have a question. And I pose that question to you. What choice will you make? Will your nation stand with Israel? Will you stand with democracy and peace? Or will you stand with Iran, a brutal dictatorship that subjugates its own people, exports terrorism across the globe? In this battle between good and evil, there must be no equivocation.
So, yan, pinapapili tayo, mga kababayan. Ano yung choice natin? Curse or blessing? The path of peace or war? Kasi po, ang Israel, may karapatan din sila, just like any other country, to defend themselves from any attack. Yung aim po ng mga kalaban ng Israel po, annihilation, wiping Israel from the map of the world. Yan po ang yan ang objective ng mga kalaban ng Israel po, lalo ng Iran. So we have to pray for peace sa Israel po, because Israel is the apple of God's eye. And those who bless Israel will be blessed. And those who curse Israel will be cursed. Hindi po magkakamali ang Bible. Tama po? Mag-isip-isip kayo, mga taga DFA. Sa mga naghanap ng malinis and spacious fitness gym, pumunta lang po kayo sa aming Colossal Fitness Gym. We also offer Grab Car Rental with our brand new 2023 model ng Toyota Innova. We also accept booking for those who are planning to travel via PAL, Cebu Pacific, and other airline companies, local and international, and bills payment for Meralco bills, PLDT, Aleco bills, etc. Ang Colossal Fitness Gym is located at 3rd floor Security Bank Building, Landco Business Park, Legazpi City, Albay. For inquiries, look for Chilon Maravillas. Contact number 0966-802-0949. Yan yung aming Innova. Lagi na pong matao sa amin. Pati mga foreigners po, tingnan ninyo. Mga British tourists sila. Ang lalaki ng katawan na, mga kababayan, nag-gym sa amin. Ito naman po, international. Ito mga mga European sila. Ito naman yung bago naming product na binibenta online, Eye Glow Serum. Whitening po siya galing sa South Korea. Tingnan ninyo yung epekto sa aking anak na architect entrepreneur, Riz Maravillas. For inquiries, look for Riz Maravillas on FB. Ito naman po, Firmax Firming and Lifting Cream. Pinapahid po ito sa mga pulses. and affected area. Mainam po ito sa mga pains at paninigas na mga kaso-kasuan. Ito po, Automax Radiant Serum. Sa mukha naman yung application. Anti-aging po siya. You will look 10 years younger than your age. Sa mga cancer patients naman po, baka lang gusto ninyo itong itry. Nengxia Red Mix Fruit Drink. Hindi man po siya gamot, food supplement siya. Kaya lang, gawa siya mga kababayan sa goji berry. Yung goji berry may anti-cancer properties. Yung mga inquiries ninyo, dumiritso na lang kayo sa aming messenger sa Facebook para masagot namin agad. Ayos po, ako po si Dante Maravillas. Bye-bye. God bless.